Morrow, why are you shopping at the soup store? I'm trying to get soup. Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. And with me have some more RPG horror stories. And if anybody ever asks, yes, I always record these intros uniquely by themselves every single time. I know I could probably save some time by just doing one single good take and just repeating this, but I feel like then it otherwise wouldn't be super special. Speaking of super special, we got some special horror stories for today. Let's get to them right now. Player created a character with no attempt to interact with the party. For context, I'm the GM, and the setting of this game is a university with a persona-like campaign structure. So some of the context is the university and the players enter these sort of dungeons that exist in a parallel world. I had one player who, when making a character, just refused to help me make them. They described first their character as a bit of a loner, already a small red flag, who lives with their older sister. So far, it's fine. But then I ask follow-up questions. Cool. So is your character in any clubs or extracurriculars? No. How about any friends at the university? No. They only really interact with their sister. Sister doesn't go to school, by the way. So how about hobbies? Anything your character's into? No. They like to reading. I need you to help me out here. Your character's at a university. Class just ended. What are they doing? Probably just going home to read, I think. Guy gives me nothing to work with. And then I asked him, how's your character going to get involved with the plot of the campaign? Again, no answer. I did tell him that to get his character involved without some kind of assistance for the backstory, I'm going to have to make an extremely extroverted NPC that adopts them, which I generally don't like doing. They said they were fine with that. Fast forward to session 1. Since it's a university, I told everyone in session 0 that the first session would be at a club fair that's hosted during the first week of the semester. When I asked him what his character would be doing, his character wouldn't be there at all. Would just go home. I gotta say something. This is the kind of player where you should have told him, no, I'm not gonna let you play a character that's just not gonna be involved in things. I need your character to have a reason to be around. So work with me here. Don't work against me. Don't make me do all the work and stuff. Like, if a player wants to make kind of a loner character, that's fine, as long as they're gonna have their character participate in what the DM got going on, so they can actually be involved in something that is happening. You can have an edgy, brooding character that doesn't see anybody else as potential enemies and stuff, as long as you actually have the character actually help out and stuff, right? Like me, Morrow is kind of a shithead. He's not great when it comes to new people. He's not extremely friendly with them, but he's not gonna be extremely antagonistic and stuff. And while he may not like somebody, he's still gonna go out of the way to try to save them with a potion or a scroll or something, because that's what I want to do as a player. I want to get my character involved with everybody else, even if he has a problem with somebody at the party. For example, Mike and Morrow don't get along, even though they're bestest of friends. They don't get along. They're like an old married couple, and they usually give each other crap. But when going gets tough, I as a player and Micah as a player will both go out of our way to make sure our characters are helping each other in any capacity, in any way possible, no matter how much we roleplay snark at each other in character, because we consider the roleplay snark fun. We like our character dynamic. We think it's fun and funny when they go into each other. And when Micah gives Morrow crap or Morrow gives Micah crap, it's hilarious to both of us, and we love it, even though at the end of the day, as players, we'll do everything we possibly can to make sure that we provide support for each other and actually helping each other both in and out of combat. If Micah is doing something, Morrow's going to help him, even if he grumbles, but he's still going to help him regardless. Arcana checks, harvesting checks, whatever it is that we got going on, we still cooperate and play well with each other, and we play well as a players, even though our characters roleplay in a particular way. It's one thing to roleplay yourself as a loner, but it's another thing if a player just doesn't want their character to get involved in anything whatsoever. Then how is the DM supposed to get you involved in anything if your character is just not there to participate in any capacity? Work with your DM to make an introverted character. Don't just be an introverted character and be an introverted player, because your DM shouldn't be pulling teeth just to get your character involved. You should also participate in some way possible. I had to create a side scene with the extroverted NPC I made literally forces him to go to the club fair. And I think that part I found frustrating was that I told him I was going to do this, and he agreed to have an NPC adopt him, but he was still resistant to it. But eventually I get his character to the club fair, where he refuses to interact with other players. Then the quest starts. Enemies spawn, people panic, players fight off the bad guy, and can follow them through a portal with the parallel world I mentioned before. 4 out of 5 players agree they're going in. The subject of this post just says his character leaves without saying anything. Yo, I don't think your player actually wants to play. I think at that point, this actually, no, it's actually valid to say, bruh, do you want to play or not? If you don't want to play, why are you at this table? if you go to play, you better jump in that portal with everybody else, or convince your character to somehow want to jump in with everybody else in some way, some capacity. Like, your player character's motivation should not be so stuck rigid to the point we gotta play them like they're not part of the party. You can make a character of any personality type. A Mary Sue, a Gary Stu, a main character. Like, you can make all kinds of characters that even are the most introverted and antisocial and pacifist. As long as you as a player play well with the party and you actually tag along the adventure the DM got set up for you, everything is fine. I think you could totally make a bunch of problem player characters, right? That have like a problem player character personality. As long as players will play well with a party, you can have edgelords and Mary Stews and main characters that think themselves high and mighty. As long as the players are very aware and self-aware of the joke character they're making and the bit they're running, but it's still going to be playing the character like normally as a player would. Except this player just really wants everything to be about their character, not wanting to be involved in anything. If you don't want to be involved in anything, then why are you part of this game in the first place? It just seems stupid. The 4 out of the 5 who I think at this point were annoyed with the character decide to go in. So I try to be clever and narrate for the last guy. You see the 4 other students go into the portal. Would your character have any sense of heroism? Maybe you realize their strength in numbers and you can make a difference? You already left. At this point, I just got off and upset. Okay, here's the deal, man. If you don't go into the portal, you just don't get to play next session. 4 out of 5 party members want to go into a dungeon. I'm not about to do a 4-1 party split where one just reads a book and they're home. I hear him audibly get annoyed and say something along the lines of, "Fine, my character feels a forceful tug as it gets magically pulled into the portal." He ended up leaving the campaign after that with a passive-aggressive message in chat. It's going to give him the boot anyway, so it worked out. But it still shocks me how people who sign up for D&D game and just refuse to interact with other people. I bet you the guy just really wanted to have this character just be the main character and stuff. He just have be everything about his character in particular whatsoever. He's so committed to the bit of his character being a loner and stuff because maybe he's introverted or whatever that he's not seeing the forest for the trees. It's just really stupid. Like, you can make an introverted character if your character is introverted, but the player actually wants to play. There's no point. Like, the story is going there specifically. The story is heading there. And the player is like, my character would just leave anyway because my character's introverted and stuff. It's all about what my character wants. Is my player agency the most important thing? Because the adventure's going one way. You know, what's the character go? What? Read? That's so, wow, that's so interesting. Incredibly interesting. Look, like, at the end of the day, if you're not participating with what DM has planned for the day, then why are you even here in the first place? Your DM made a whole session so your characters can have this cool moment and everything and be able to like go into like a dungeon exploration, the specific design for the specific type of campaign. The expectations there is you, even though your character's introverted, you still got to participate in some way, in some capacity. So as a player, please engage with it. Please. That's the only expectation that I have for you is role-play your character however you want. But as long as you actually engage, this player didn't want to engage. They just want their character to just be boring. Like, if you want to do that, then write a book about your character just going to school and then interact with their sister and then going home and reading. I think you'd be more than happy to do so or something like that. I don't know. I personally feel like the player probably wants to be the main character and want their character to be the most important person. Everything happened around their character all the time. They wanted their character to be the anime protagonist that is so broody and mysterious and just goes home just to read a book. But then something happens over at the home that causes him to be the main character and stuff and catches him to be the main character. I don't know. They're probably influenced by some sort of a new modern day anime or something. Probably, maybe. Not like a shade towards any modern day anime. They're perfectly fine. I watch a couple of them with Mary. But like, I feel like this is one of those, like, I feel like this is one of those players that wants the character to be the main character, but they want DM to force them to be the main character and stuff, instead of like, you know, have the player actually participate, which different expectations, I guess. And this player clearly expected something the DM wasn't going with. I don't think they're going to be a good fit in the first place. Anyway, let me know if, actually, you know what, comments. Let me know your theories about this particular like player. What do you think they were trying to do? Were they just trying to be boring for the sake of being boring because they got nothing else going on in their life? Or did they want their character to secretly be the main character and for the DM to cater around their character, eventually becoming the bestest ever? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they want to have their own like anime harem or something. Who knows? Anyway, let's continue with the next story. My terrible experience with a creative but incompetent DM and a problematic party. Hello everyone, English isn't my native language, but inspired by various stories of other unfortunate players and DMs, I decided to write about my most recent terrible experience. Warning, context includes physical violence, gambling, explicit sexual content, essay, mild homophobia, abortions, and in-game violence against minors. About 3 years ago, I taught D&D to a group of friends who enjoy role-playing on Discord. After I mastered a one-shot, One player decided to become a dungeon master by creating a homebrew campaign. The story's characters and the receptive characters are the following, whom I'll give nicknames to for privacy reasons. DM, male 21, dungeon master in question, 90% of the problems. Farah, female 21, Tabaxi Bard, cleric of death, DM's girlfriend. Jeannie, female 21, wood elf druid of the moon circle. Very anonymous, she didn't come to sessions often. Eltaz, the DMPC, a very stereotypical Freyrin gender swap. Damakos, male 22, tiefling rogue bard who played the best friend with a rich background, joined later. Sanguinius, male 21, a first character, an Asama warrior sorcerer warrior, I'm assuming fighter, who is cursed with the unique power of wild magic that was crucial to the world's lore. I think of him as a mix of Gandalf and Sanguinius from Warhammer 40k. Asmodeus, my second character, whom I later retired, barbarian warlock who served as an avatar for Asmodeus himself. Let me start by saying the campaign is in a homebrew setting that blends Freyrin Beyond Journeys and Elden Ring. We've established the following homebrew rules. Multiclassing is optional, and multiclasses advance equally in both classes. Okay, hold on. I was about to pause the video just to be like, I don't know how Freyrin and Elden Ring mix together well, but whatever. By the way, I gotta be honest about something. I tried watching Freyrin. I can't get into it, man. I literally cannot get it. I get it. It's a slice of life. The BBG just been defeated. What happens after kind of story. But I literally cannot get into it. I've watched first 3 episodes and I just dropped it because I couldn't be cooked, man. It was just so slow. And I've seen slice of life anime. I watch so many. I love slice of life anime. I love how some of them could just be really chill, but I just couldn't get hooked in this one. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'll try it again with Mary or something. Maybe, you know, maybe watching with somebody else would be more enjoyable. But anyway, the fact that you allow multiclassing and multiclasses advance equally in both classes, that means that you are outgunned if you aren't multiclassing, you know? You kind of should be multiclassing so you can level up all the classes together at the same time. Imagine if you could just level up fighter and warlock together, and every single level up, both will level up. That is crazy to me. You know, that'd be a crazy campaign to run. A multi-class campaign where you choose 2 classes to start with and a level at the same time. That'd be such a crazy system. That'd be such a crazy game to play. Holy hell. With that explained, we can begin session 1. Our character starts in a tavern, talking to the main quest from the NPC to bring an item to the other side of the world to finally kill the Demon King. It would be a classic start, except our characters end up in prison. Here we met Jeannie, whom we helped get out of prison. That's when the problem begins. GM had us face a homebrew golem with 25 AC at level 3. If we hadn't been creative and blown up the floor, we would have risked the DPK in the first session. Fast forward to the rest of the party and I found Damakos in a necromancer's dungeon. He's injured and his clothes torn, making us think something had happened to him. My friend doesn't take it well. Between one thing and another, we free him and start doing side quests for the necromancer. The first problems were already starting to appear at the table. Before we get into the spear episode, dropping a golem with 25 AC at a level 3 party is diabolical. I feel like the DM is really going to that Elden Ring kind of first encounter. Your first encounter in any Dark Souls game gotta be the toughest one ever, and you gotta find some ways to solve it or brute force it kind of thing. Which, guys, don't design your games to be like Elden Ring or Dark Souls in the difficulty department. Just don't. It creates a specific expectation where all the fights are gonna be fight to the death, and you're probably gonna end up dying and TPKing and stuff, and it's just not gonna be a good thing. Use regular balancing. Just regular balancing. Actually, in fact, I think I should probably make a video on the side of how I balance my combat for a particular type of fights, whether it be a one enemy fight or multi-enemy fight and stuff. I have a couple of tricks here and there that have been tested already by my players, and I feel pretty confident with the way that I run things, so I might just share some here and there. Anyway, let's continue. The spear episode. DM asks us to privately send him some homebrew items we would like to have for our characters during the campaign. I remember perfectly that Damakos had requested a spear inspired by King's Spear from 7DS. It was a particular complex spear to use and had several transformations that would have created a perfect playstyle for a PC designed to be a jack of all trades. After the Necromancer quest, the DM had Damakos find the spear. All well and good, except for the DM asked Damakos to make an Arcana roll to attune himself to the weapon. Damakos succeeded, rolling a very high number like 35. DM said he couldn't attune. A few seconds later, he made the same request for Jeannie, and she succeeded with a much lower number. Now wanted to make a fuss about the moment after the session. Asked the DM what DC Damakos would have to beat. He replied that even if he had rolled a natural 20, he would never have attuned Damocles to the spear, because in his own words, the spear is much more in keeping with Genie than with Damocles, and besides, you're veterans. There's no point in giving you strong weapons right away. So you ask the players for what homebrew items they would want. The players tell you the homebrew items you want. You say, okay, I'll put in a game for you guys to find it. Your players find it and be like, oh, sorry, you wanted to attune to this item? You can't. I'm giving it to the other player. And then their own explanation is, no point in giving you guys strong weapons right away because you're veterans of the game. Why even ask? It's like a weird trap. It's like a weird like smorgasbord of like decisions. Why even do that in the first place? I probably point out that regardless of everything, Damocles was upset and should at least apologize. DM said he already had another item ready for him. A few discussions later, he found a chalice that, if activated by sacrificing 1d4 HP, could transform into a sword that only did 1d6 magical slashing damage. Damocles gave a tight smile as soon as he got it. It intended to sell it for something else. In the same dungeon, he had Pharaoh find a +5 hammer that did 2d8 tag damage plus 1d12 radiant damage, and that it did triple damage against fiends undead. Needless to say, both Damocles and I felt very obviously taken for a ride. Not even taken for a ride. I feel like there's a huge, heavy player favoritism happening here. Oh, Genie gets a spear that Damocles wanted, but Damocles doesn't get anything except a crappy sword that does 1d6 magical damage that you gotta activate using a 1d4 HP. That sucks. That straight up sucks, guys. That straight up sucks so much. Okay, like it would be one thing if, let's say, for example, it done extra 1d6 damage on top of the regular damage that it did. That'd be kind of neat. That'd be kind of like the Blood Hunter, like Rite of the Frozen or Flame or Storm and stuff, where you basically play a small blood price regarding towards your Hemocraft die, and you apply a specific enchantment to your weapon, which basically means it does that extra damage on top of that, whether it's cold, lightning, or fire, depending on what feature that you're using. But this just kind of sucks. It feels like you guys are getting shafted completely and utterly by this. While people like Farah get a +5 hammer that does 2d8, I'm assuming, bludgeoning damage and 1d12 radiant damage. That is insane. Crazy, dude. Absolutely insane. The first PG change. Shortly before the battle against the Necromancer, we faced a huge undead moose with divine powers. In lore, it was being creature from the body of an angel by the Necromancer. The fight was unbalanced. Farah dealt very high damage for the level 6 PCs, while I and Damocles almost dealt negligible damage. Genie wasted time figuring out how to use the spear because, in her opinion, it was too complicated. During the battle, the DM started focusing on my PC, Sanguinius, who was a sorcerer warrior, fighter I'm guessing, who used spells more and had little defensive ability. After the fight was over, I decided to switch characters after defeating the Necromancer. Talked to the DM about it, telling him that not having a tank was the best thing to do. After about an hour of discussion, showed up at a new session with Asmodeus, a demon who was supposed to represent wrath and had a sword that slowly transformed whoever wielded it into Asmodeus. The session was smooth, except for the final boss he had as face. He designed him as an enemy that would act as support for his minions. Realizing this immediately, Damocles and I acted accordingly, focusing on the boss, who was knocked out after a few turns. DM didn't take it well at all, so Damocles and I gave him some suggestions on how to improve, giving advice like adding more gimmicks and putting more minions to act as mini-bosses. DM said these were stupid suggestions that were metagaming. In a session the following week, he will proceed to put all our suggestions on the table, passing them off as his own ideas. That is absolutely diabolical, insane. You give me bad ideas, stop metagaming. Then comes back with the next session with all these ideas and say, I thought of myself. Nobody, none of these stinky other players ever gave me suggestions. It's all my own original ideas. Sure, buddy, sure. Guys, you probably should have left after this. Honestly, OP, you and Damocles should have left after this game. But guess what? There's still a couple more paragraphs of stories and events that happen, so we're gonna continue reading this torture clown fest that you guys went through. You guys willingly put yourself through, mind you. You willingly put yourself through this. You could have said no at any point and could have told yourself, no D&D is better than bad D&D, and I shouldn't be playing this right now. I should be looking for a different game to play. But here we are anyway, so let's continue. Las Vegas Fantasy. A few sessions after the party, he went to a highly developed steampunk city where prostitution and violence were commonplace. Soon the city recognized the possibility of selling oneself into slavery to pay off debts. When we enter the city, we immediately see the degradation between the poor and the rich. We're approached by a boy who offers us to go to a brothel. As soon as we enter, an eccentric and annoyingly stereotypical homosexual guy welcomes us, offering women and men for the members of the party. Partly for the meme, partly because we are perverts, we accept everyone. When Jeannie decides to take the room with 2 women, DM turns up his nose, but allowed it. Next day, he made us roll a d20, end up with Farah being impregnated by Gigolo. Seeing the slightly disgusted face of Farah's player, I decided to make her abort by making a medicine roll and giving her some herbs. While I did so, GM looked at me badly the whole time, and during the session, he made us pay a lot. And not a little, he made all the prices of the items we needed extremely high, and the bad sellers free. Subsequently, after this compulsive shopping session, we decided to continue with the main quest, and the situation worsened. And you guys still actively stayed in this game. You should have left. So what was the point for this? What was the point for this? Just so the party can get their hanky-panky on and then roll for d20 to see if somebody got impregnated, and so you guys can procure a medicine to unimpregnate them? What was the point of this? This seems completely arbitrary and pointless. Like, you guys should have said something. You guys should have said something. You decide to sleep in his bed. You decide to sleep in this clown show. So you're stuck of it. I'm gonna continue reading this, but this is you guys should have said something early on from the start. This is not the kind of vibe you guys go even playing or interested in. The anti-magic tower. During our exploration, we discovered that the Duchess of the city had been kidnapped by a cult that worships the Demon King and faced their leader, who is an evil version of Percival de Rollo. The fight is interesting if it weren't for 2 battle gimmicks. The boss has a pistol that rolls 2d20 to hit. One determines whether or not it hits, while the other, if it rolls an 8 or higher, can continue shooting that turn as long as it rotates its target. The other is an anti-magic golem, a mini-boss. In short, every time a party character casts a spell, it is absorbed without making a saving throw or anything else, losing the spell slot. Yes, even healing and bardic inspirations were included. While Asmodeus wasn't negatively affected by it, being a predominantly martial artist, I explained to the DM after the session that this mechanic ruined the fight, making all spellcasters, including his DNPC, useless. That no one had any fun even during the second phase of the fight, when the magic field did stop working, but everyone had already lost their slots. The slot machine episode. Few sessions after the boss fight, we were invited by the Duchess to the castle, but first, to pass the time, DM made us gamble. He invented some tricks, rigging the games, like moving the cooldowns of the rolls without telling us, or sometimes making us roll at disadvantage when playing roulette, etc. Hadn't figured out the trick, Damokos and I went off to look for new ways to collect the money our companions were spending, so we decided to scam a rich NPC who was nearby. Shortly after we scammed him, Jeannie, who had run out of gold, decided to accuse us, the guards, of stealing the gold from these rich NPCs, expecting a reward in return. When the guard arrived, Damokos tried to convince him that we were innocent and that they were wrong by making a deception test. DM then decided after the fact that this test was only valid for Damokos, and he had Asmodeus captured anyway. While he was in prison, the guards asked him for sexual favors to get out of the cell. Obviously I refused, and I was thrown to jail. Damokos broke me out of the teleportation spell. After the breakout, we mutually agreed that our PCs would take revenge on Jeannie. Of course, when she asked why we were doing it, I promptly replied, Asmodeus would do it after you sold us out. DM had his DNPC cast Hold Person, and shortly thereafter the session ended. When Jeannie asked the DM what he got for his arrest, DM shrugged and said, the happiness of having done the right thing. Okay, you already are setting up a situation now where players can basically screw each other over and stuff for the sake of screwing each other, or just to be able to compensate for something, like to be able to get some sort of like oh, if I report the dealings and stuff, I can get some money for it. That is very player versus player kind of mentality, and that should not be okay at the table. You should not be able to screw each other over at the table like that. Also, weird sexual favors from the guard just to get out of the jail. DM has a weird kinks, dude. Weird kinks completely. This is a disaster game. You guys should have left, but you know what? We're just rolling with it. And guess what? There's like 1, 2, 3, 4 more paragraphs, so I'm probably gonna just shut up. Listen, I already said everything I need to say. This is a disaster game, but I'm just gonna keep reading to see how worse this crap goes and just to see the absurdity of it all. Because at this point, I mean, if we said everything, we're just watching the clown show. The character changed. After about 6 sessions where almost nothing incriminating happened, I realized that I no longer cared about the group, and that my character was following them for no apparent reason. You should have left. You really just should have left many sessions ago. And just getting to now with this realization is diabolical. I tried to talk to the DM about Asmodeus not being involved to the story. I brought this up at least once a week before the session until I got tired of it. Told him that since I wasn't being listened to, I wanted to change characters. After about 4 weeks of pause, we resumed the session. At a certain point, after Jeannie and Farah had been teasing Asmodeus throughout the session, I decided to say he was disappearing into the bushes. Stared at the GM for the next 3 minutes, after which we started a heated argument. I essentially told him that if I didn't do this, he would listen to me and the DM didn't want me to create a new character. Finally, after about 1 hour and 57 minutes of discussion, I started using the character sheet again, Sanguinius' character, and modify his build, but only a little. Now, I don't remember the exact subclass the warrior that forced me to choose, but I was a little more satisfied, so we started to face the fight after. Immunity to physics. In the next session, DM had us face a version of the demon Qual from the anime Freyren. After the end of the journey, named after his unstoppable magic Zoltrak, the fight was difficult due to some of the boss's very unbalanced abilities. Each of the 4 players had counterspell, which were promptly used to cancel the spell he sent at us. This exclusive spell, called Zoltrak, had a damage type never seen before and could not be stopped by any means, not even with a shield or anything else. In other words, it was a cantrip that dealt 3d12 unspecified damage and would automatically hit. After hours of demeaning combat, we eliminated him, although it took the entire session. Shortly after, a few days, the DM told me that Zoltrak was immune to force damage and would take half damage to all damage types. This explains a lot, but I decided to shrug and ignore it. It sounds like a terrible design for a boss that could just hit directly for 3d12 unspecified damage. What do you mean unspecified damage? He does what? Blueberry damage? Is that a blueberry dragon? There's actually blueberry damage, particularly in D&D. There's one creature that does blueberry damage. It's not a lot of damage, but it is indeed blueberry damage. Like hell, if you wanted to do some unspecified damage, you could make it so that it does like randomized damage, or like one time it's bludgeoning, one time it's slashing, one time it's force damage, you know, stuff like that. You know, when you go beyond the aspect of it does unspecified damage that you guys can totally not have any resistance to, that you create another factor, you create another variable that needs to be considered. Is there going to be more creatures that do unspecified damage, or just this guy because you just really want to stick it to your players? Some random final things. After the Zoltrak episode, went to the kingdom's capital to save it from the demons. In short, in this episode, the GM, to make me pay for switching characters again despite having forced me to bring back Sanguinius, came up with another of his brilliant ideas. My Sanguinius build was initially based on spear attacks, so a build that combined the Sentinel and Polearm Master talents, which, for those who don't know, prevents enemies from moving if hit by an attack of opportunity. TM knew this, so he had us face a demon Tormentor, an executioner whose gimmick was specific resistance to both magical and physical attacks of opportunity. After the session ended, he himself told me there was a countermeasure to eliminate me. I didn't play the following session with much involvement, and in fact remember practically nothing from the subsequent sessions except for a rematch between my character and the Tormentor. Damocles was missing at this point, and our group split into 2 for a double joint assault. I alone took care of him and of Wyvern, even though I had no hope of level 10, even though I was playing in the hope of killing Sanguinius in that fight. DM didn't let me die, transforming my sword into a weapon that would automatically bring me back from dead regardless of whether I was in combat or not. The DM, your character can't do that because I made a specific creature that is countered by all your stuff. Basically made like a counter enemy, but then doesn't even let your character die. You can't die. I made a sword that brings you back all the time because I don't want to lose any more players because nobody else will play with me. Probably. That's probably what the DM was thinking in the back of the head, because I don't know anybody else that would willingly want to play this. Why did you willingly play this? Player OP, I am mad at you. Why are you playing with this DM for this long and didn't just say, you know what, DM, I'm out, bye. I am so mad. I am actually mad at OP for this. This is an OP that is actively putting himself through testicular torture and is like, you know what, I'm gonna keep coming back for it. I don't like it, but I'm gonna keep doing it because I'm a glutton for punishment. Why would you do that to yourself? Why? I'm actually mad. Like, I'm putting on a voice, but I'm actually pissed. During session 0 of this campaign, we established specific rules. You always play every week and the day is variable. You only escape if 2 people are missing. All of this led to a terrible situation where Virginia was missing, Farah didn't want to participate, and DM didn't want to continue the campaign because Farah didn't want to participate, and so on. Often we'll go to entire periods up to 5 months between sessions. When I pointed that out, they told me I was obsessed with D&D. There's no reason of that week to punish persistence. After a while, I got so annoyed that I lashed out at the group. After the upteenth time I was told I was overreacting, I simply let it go. A few months ago, Damocles introduced me to his group of friends, the party I now play with regularly. They're fantastic people, and we play every week barring any obstacles. I even got engaged to a player to that party. As with the previous campaign, time simply killed it. We left the story halfway through, and eventually the group disbanded. You are a glutton for punishment, OP. I don't know why you decided to go through. You could have just joined Damocos the whole time with our friend group and play with them instead. Or you and Damocos could have just went and looked for a different group to play with, but instead decided to play with a specific game and torture yourself for no specific reason. You should have left, honestly. You should have left like several paragraphs ago. Like after the spear episode, you guys should have left, be like, you know what, this is not for me. It's not the kind of game I feel like playing, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave. This game was just a waste of your time. And while I did enjoy a little bit of misery, you really should have left forever ago, dude. Honestly, this is on you. Like, DM sucks. Other players kind of suck too. Yeah, sure. You can leave bad games. You don't have to be stuck like some sort of like a prisoner of war there. You're not a prisoner of war. You can just leave. You don't have to be here. You can just leave bad games.